Welcome into another episode of the Crimson Flame podcast. I am your host, Katie Wyndham, and I'm so grateful that you're here listening for another episode of the show. It was another busy week for Alabama athletics, maybe not the most successful week for women's athletics. Obviously, there was a big football game on Saturday in Athens, and you can go check out all our coverage from that on BamaCentral.com from that game. But we'll kind of get into the results from this past week of the women's team. So the cross country team finished 19th at the Gans Creek Classic in Missouri. Women's swim and dive opened the season with a big win over Delta State, 242 to 39. Basically just total dominance. Kaden Vincent won SEC Female Swimmer of the Week. She won the 50 free with a time of 22:21. So it was a good week over at the pool for the Crimson Tide. The men's team also won against Delta State and also had an athlete that won SEC Weekly Honors. I think they actually had two. They had a swimmer and a diver win. So some good things going on over at swimming. Soccer lost a tough match at Kentucky 2-1 on Friday. A penalty kick in the 77th minute was the deciding goal for the Wildcats, and Alabama's now 8-3-1 overall in the season and 2-2 in SEC play with some big matches coming up. Volleyball got swept 3-0 at Auburn on Friday and then lost a close contested 3-1 match at number 19 Florida. That one set win was the first time since 2008 that they've won a set against Florida, which is kind of crazy. So not the best week for the Crimson Tide, but there's new opportunities for almost all those teams this week. More stuff to come, which we'll get into in a little bit. But that's it for last week's results. And now we will get into our interview with Arielle Schafer. A lot of you have probably seen her on your TV screens on social media. We'll get into it a little bit in the interview, but she had one of the most iconic shots of the Alabama athletic sports year last year with Mark Sears buzzer beater over Auburn. But Arielle was actually a student athlete at Alabama. She was on the rowing team from 2016 to 2020. And also, while she was a student athlete, she was working for Crimson Tide Productions, which is kind of the multimedia video branch for Alabama athletics. They're the ones who interview the players coming off the field at practice. They put together the highlight clips. They're the ones who put together the stuff that plays in the stadium, all that kind of stuff. And she also worked for WVUA, which is the TV station in Tuscaloosa, all while being a student athlete, which is pretty impressive. Right out of college, she got a job at a TV station in Lubbock, Texas, getting to cover Texas Tech athletics before getting to return back to Alabama to work at CBS 42 in Birmingham, where she got the chance to cover her alma mater and also cover Auburn, Jacksonville State, Birmingham, UAB, just kind of schools all around Birmingham, high schools and colleges all around the state. So I think it's a really interesting, informative interview, maybe kind of behind the scenes of some stuff you may not know a lot about. So here's my interview with Arielle. I'm so excited today to be joined by Arielle Schafer. She was an athlete at Alabama, and then she also was in the media covering Alabama. So she has a really unique perspective of kind of both sides. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. And also, thank you for starting a podcast that's specifically just spotlighting female sports at Alabama. No one has done that yet. And I've always been such a fan of your work. Obviously, we worked side and side, for a long time through college and then also in the professional world. So thank you for doing this podcast.
Yeah, of course. I think as I kind of talked about in my intro episode, I think there is a lot of interest there. Alabama has very passionate fans in all things, so I kind of hope to spotlight some different stuff, including the team you were on. You were a rower at Alabama, so kind of take me through that journey. You're from Jersey. Kind of when did the University of Alabama start crossing paths for you or come on your radar as a place that you could maybe row one day?
To be completely honest, it was not on my radar till the very last minute. So up in New Jersey, I'm from Atlantic City, like that area, and rowing is a popular high school
Hmm.
sport. We weren't club, it was public high school. So in my freshman year, I was looking for a third sport. I played field hockey in the fall, was a big time basketball player, was really focusing on going to school for basketball. And it was in between like lacrosse, rowing, and track and field. And I don't know, just was a tall kid, and my rowing coach, high school rowing coach, still talk to him to this day once a month. He comes out of the crowd's like, "Hey, you're a big, strong kid. You should try rowing." And I'm like, "What?" So then I did. I tried like fall crew, went out and tried a little bit, ended up signing up for the spring ended up doing really, really well. There is like a thing in rowing with recruiting. Um, so it's like a 2,000 meter erg tests,
Hmm.
like rowing test, and it kind of just gives you a good benchmark of where you are. And back then, because kids are so much faster nowadays, and the recruiting requirements now for women's rowing is insane at the Division I level, but 7 minutes and 30 seconds total time on a 2,000-meter piece is what you would get a lot of attention from the Division I coaches on
Hmm.
your recruiting profile of possibly being a good candidate and you strong and fast. So I broke 7 minutes and 30 seconds when I was like a sophomore,
Oh,
like
wow.
end of freshman sophomore year, and then they were like, "Oh my gosh, like this is a big deal." And I'm like, "I still don't understand it. I don't know what's going on." I was so solely focused on going to school for basketball because I wanted
Uh-huh.
to be like my dad and my aunt and my uncle who all played up at school in Philadelphia, and I really wanted to do that. And then I just put some like times and some benchmarks on like be recruited, like I made like a profile or whatever. And then July 1st of my going into my junior summer, I got emails from Iowa, Tennessee, California, Washington. It was crazy the amount. And my parents are like, "What?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Rowing coaches, high school rowing coaches, they were pumped. They were so
Oh,
excited
I'm
because
sure.
our program had a really good reputation, state
Uh-huh.
champions and everything too, of also molding really good athletes who went on and rowed at the Division I level. So I had four officials planned. I had one at Duquesne because I really connected with the coach there. Tennessee, I was sold on. That was my number one school. I wanted to go to Tennessee so bad. And then I'm trying to think of what else. Tennessee, Clemson, I went on an official visit there. And then where else did I go to? Old Dominion, because that was close and that was one of the schools. And then you had allowed five official visits at the time. And Alabama was the last school to contact me, just out of nowhere. And I was like, huh, all right. My dad was excited because he was a Miami Dolphins fan. And of course,
Okay.
Saban came in for,
Uh-huh.
was there for Miami for a little bit. And then he was like, oh my gosh, like Alabama, like you should go and take a visit. Like you have one more visit, why not? So I'm like, okay. I did all my official visits by myself except for Alabama because my parents were like, hey, I don't know if we're ever going to get tickets to a football game at Alabama ever again. So we're going to come with you on that one. And as soon as I stepped on campus, I knew that was a school for me. And that's just kind of the short version. And then, yeah, was considered a talent transfer, even though I was, I was signed, my national letter of intent, was on scholarship. I was still considered a talent transfer because I was one of the only in my recruiting class that like didn't row year round besides the preferred walk-ons and the walk-ons that we brought on to into our class that year. So I had a lot of growth, had a lot of technical errors when I first
Mhm.
got there, but was just a strong kid. And yeah, that's how I got to Bama. I've always wanted to go to a big school, never thought I would go to the South, thought I was going to stay in the Northeast and never looked back.
So do you remember what did y'all get to go to a football game on that visit? And do you remember what game it was?
We did. It was like Austin P word, like some
Uh,
school that I do, that gets paid to come
yeah.
get destroyed by Alabama. It was the 2015 season. Yes, because I
Okay.
graduated in 2016. So it was 2015 season, and you know how good that team was. So it was really cool. My parents were in awe of everything, just the facilities. And I think one of the big things that sold me to come to Alabama was that the football team, like, yeah, football team does get special treatment with certain things, but
Mm.
you know, all sports share the weight room. They share the dining hall together. All this, the student athlete academic center, like,
Mhm.
we're all in there together. It's not separated because at like Clemson and Tennessee, it was separated.
Mm.
And I think to me, that's what something that stood out that like everyone was treated equal. And a lot of my like strength coaches worked with the football team. So like,
Yeah.
we're all together in there. Yes, like football has their own stuff and they do a lot of different things because yeah, it's Alabama football, but I think that just kind of bought me into what they have going on there, and that was just one of the most attractive things I thought when
Yeah.
I was doing my stuff.
Yeah, football kind of elevates what the rest of the athletic department is
Yes.
able to do. And I think like as they've gone along, they've kind of gotten a little more separate because they have like their separate floor of the dining hall now
Yeah.
and but still the weight room and some of the other facilities, yeah, it allows every team on campus to kind of have nice things in a way. Um, so what did you kind of said you never thought you'd go to school in the South. What did you know about Alabama slash the South before you came, or was it mainly just football?
It was mainly just football. I mean, obviously, I wanted to go to school for sports broadcasting. I was lucky in my high school that we had a really good high school media program that we did
Oh,
live
that's cool.
broadcasts and did stuff like that, had live morning shows. I was always anchoring sports. It was cool. Really, really enjoyed it. And I knew they had a good program as well.
Hmm.
Them in Tennessee had a really solid program. Clemson did too. And I just knew, it was big sports, and I kind of was surprised on Alabama because, like, I said, growing up on the beach, like, I was just like, oh man, like, I'm gonna be going to like, I don't know, not say the woods, but like, I just like, I feel
The
like
country.
the country, yeah. And I
Yeah.
kind of hate to say that because now living in Birmingham, I've loved every single
Hmm.
moment of it. And all my friends who come down here from the north are like, this is incredible. Like, I love Tuscaloosa. I love Talladega. Like, I was like, okay, all right, we're really getting there. But I was just really like, the people are really kind. People love sports down here.
Hmm.
It's like a lot of authenticity and a lot of passion with sports. And I was really pleasantly surprised. There were some words that I was a little confused about. Pop and buggy was a new one for me, and theater, which is theater. So there were some new ones, but definitely I've loved living here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of knew coming in, like for sure that you wanted to do sports broadcasting.
Yes, yes, I did. Something I've always been super passionate about because with rowing, you can't go professional. I guess the only way you can go professional is going to the Olympic level, and that's like 0.01
Right.
of a chance, you know? And I just was like, I will be hanging up. Oh, well, we don't have any like we have shoes in the boat, but like I'll be hanging up my oar at some
Yeah.
point. Putting my oar at some point. I want to continue to be in some sort of, world with sports for my career because I love sports no matter what it is. And that's why I decided to go into sports broadcasting.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I think rowing is technically, I mean, it's been around I think since the early 2000s in Alabama, but I think it's technically the most recent team, and it's probably the one people know the least about.
Yes.
So tell people what it's like being a rower at Alabama, kind of what y'all's season is like, what your training is like, how early y'all practice in the morning, even when it's freezing cold outside on the water, just kind of all that type stuff.
Yeah, rowing from afar, people are like, what in the heck is that? It's a very northern,
Hmm.
Midwestern or West Coast type
Yeah.
of sport. And, the thing that's so beautiful about rowing is that it doesn't matter what boat you're in, because there's two different types of main boats we race in. There's a four-person boat and there's an eight-person boat.
Hmm.
But it's technically five-person boat and a nine-person boat because you have eight or four rowers and then you have a coxswain. And
Hmm.
that's usually the tiny person that people see. Like you'll see all these really tall girls and then you'll see like one little one. And you're like, okay, what does that one do? She's the quarterback necessarily of the boat. She is having the race plan and she's also steering the boat with we have a little lever down and there's a little fin at the bottom of the boat.
Hmm.
So like she is also pulling on some strings and all like she is, the coach, she is the eyes and ears on the water because the coaches obviously can't be with us while we are racing.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like the makeup of the boat. Each position has a number. Trying to do in like, baby terms, but usually you're in the front of the boat where it's right next to the coxswain in an eight-person boat. Well, it's technically the back of the boat, but your eight and your seven seat are your two most skilled. And then you have your middle four, which are your strongest people, because the mass of the boat, it's the heaviest is in the center of the boat.
Yeah.
So your strongest people. And then your most technical slash lighter two people will be in the back. And it's kind of the same thing with the four boat. So we practiced when I was there, it was Monday through Saturday. Um, it was at like I had to be in the treatment room by 5 in the morning, doing my rehab or whatever I had planned or extras. And then we would be on the water, 6 times a week for close to 3 hours, then head right to class or head right to weights. We had a lot of cardio stuff that we had to do on our own. We ran a lot of stadiums inside Bryant-Denny, would also have a lot of indoor rower where the erg
Hmm.
stuff. That would be fitness tests to kind of see where we are, test our fitness. It would be a lot of extra cardio. And it's just so crazy how much we would row maybe for 2 hours straight without stopping, but it's a 7-minute race. Like there's a lot of anaerobic with rowing. And then the
Mhm.
last thing I will say, there's two different seasons. Like rowing's a year-round sport. In the fall, it's more like cross country. It's 5,000 meters or 6,000 meter race. So it's more of that long, like you're not gonna go
Mhm.
side by side. It's called a head race. So it's one person at a time when you're racing against the clock. And then we have winter training. So that is from we come back early to campus, so like right after New Year's. You have to be there like January 2nd or 3rd. And we would train until mid-February. And that was our spring season, which is our main season, which is racing season, where you see boats go side by side and you're racing distance and people next to you. So that's like kind of like your track and field
Yeah.
season. I hope that makes sense. It's really, really complicated.
Yeah, it does. I just want people to be able to like appreciate like football under Kalen DeBoer moved to practicing in the morning. Saban they would practice in the afternoon, but still their practices at like 8 or 9 and they get done around 11ish. And like rowing's out there on the water at 6 a.m. They're done before, like 8,
Yeah.
9 a.m. classes even start. So like no matter the temperature, when it's burning up, they're out on the water. When it's
Yeah.
freezing, they're out on the water. And you can go watch them on the Black Warrior River in the morning.
Yes. Yes. And we would have a lot of people, especially on Saturdays, because we practice like at 7 to 10. So we got a little extra sleep on Saturdays. But I think it'd be crazy that I would be burning like at least 4,000 calories and I would be through like my third workout of the day. Which was, we were just in killer shape, then. And I think that a lot of people think rowing is all your arms. It's not. It's actually your legs. It's the rowing stroke is 90% legs, 10% arms, because you'll pull out your back. It's a lot of core. Yes,
Yeah.
you are going to use your upper body, but it all comes from power in the legs because we do have shoes and we are strapped in the boat. Believe it or not, people are like, oh, like, are you like seatbelted? And no, like we move up and down a slide and it's all power within the legs.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a sport people underappreciate. And if you ever have wondered, just go do the rowing machine the next time you're at the gym and see how long you can last on it before you
Yes.
start getting worn out.
And put that little number, it's to the right, it's the fan. Do not put that on a 10 because you're going to pull your back out. Like the real weight of water is in between a 3 and a 4. So that's what you're going to feel on
Mhm.
a river or, on a lake, depending on wind. But yeah, so, and also too, we do row in the wind and crazy white caps and stuff. Well, you shouldn't row in white caps, but I've rowed in some races where there has been some white caps and waves are coming all over. But the only time we will not row is if there's a tornado, if there is lightning, or we have rowed in the snow, or when the Black Warrior River floods, which it did constantly when we got a lot of
Yeah.
rain.
Yeah, which in Tuscaloosa you do, which is also the crazy thing to me about rowing that it's such like a northeastern sport when it's like freezing up there. Like I just always like wonder what their training is like. But
Yeah, in Iowa, they have indoor tanks. So they have
wow.
like a boat that's connected to this big pool, and it's kind of like a wave pool, and that's where they train constantly. So a lot of the northern schools have indoor rowing tanks.
Wow, that would be something. Uh, you already talked about you knew coming into college you wanted to do broadcast journalism. A lot of athletes I know when they're in college, it's hard to find time to do an internship with the career you want to do just because you're so busy between school and your sport and practice and the training room and all that kind of stuff, tutoring. But you did do Crimson Tide Productions, things like that in college. So kind of what was that like for you? How did you balance being a student athlete and kind of doing things that would kind of further your career?
A lot of caffeine and a lot of dry shampoo, basically. Because I would count myself a lot of times, going from two practices, having to go quickly go into Bryant Denny, go into the bathroom, do some sort of hair and makeup, and then be ready, camera ready. But, the one thing I was told when I got to Alabama was these four, well, in my case, five, because I was a COVID senior. It's what you put into is what you're going to get out of it. And there were so many resources available to us as athletes with academic
Mhm.
support and also internships. So, yes, I had very long days and it was hard to juggle with my classwork, but I think that's one thing that was instilled in me and my teammates because my teammates also had a lot of internships
Mhm.
in the medical field. A lot of people did stuff up here at UAB and they would drive back and forth from Birmingham and then have to get up, turn around at 4 a.m. and get up for practice. And I think that's just, we knew that, getting our education was
Mhm.
massive for us. And this is pre-NIL too. Like I could not imagine what it's like now with NIL, specifically for rowing and how that works. But we were just so thankful. We worked our butts off to get our
Yeah.
education paid for, so we're going to take advantage of everything. And luckily, at Alabama, there was so many great resources like Crimson Tide Productions and WVUA 23,
Mhm.
and so many great professors at the Communications College. I mean, I still talk to so many of them today, and they were just so encouraging. And also, I think, being like excited and wanting to participate is what I realized a lot of people were going to invest in me because I showed up and
Mhm.
was willing to learn. And I think that was just like the desire because I wanted to, be able to just soak it all in and get as much knowledge as possible. But so much fun, super blessed being able to, as a senior, be on SEC Network doing sideline for soccer and women's basketball. Like that's so unheard of nowadays.
Mhm.
Unless you go to like a Syracuse or a Mizzou. Just so grateful for everything. And also at VUA, being able to anchor weekend sports. I got to see the network side with SEC Network and then also see the local news side, which I end up going in after I finished my first year of grad school. So very, very thankful. I never would, your internships is what you get the most out of. And I'm very thankful I was able to do everything.
Yeah.
So,
For sure. And in our field, which like you're on a little bit different side than me with the broadcast side, and I'm more on the writing. It's so much. Yes, like you do have to learn the knowledge in college, but it's so much experience. Like you've got to go out there and do it. You've got to go out there and write. You've got to go out there and shoot, do stand-ups, that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people don't, I think a lot of people know Reese Davis went to Alabama. Obviously, he's had a very successful career at ESPN, but like Alabama with WVUA is one of, or at least they used to tell us this. I don't know if maybe there's more now, but I think it's still true that there's only two universities in the country that have the on-campus news stations that are like real news stations, not just student runs. WVUA is like a real news station with like professionals, but it allows Alabama students the
yeah.
opportunities to do that. So like if you're interested in sports broadcasting, Alabama is a great school for that. But you talked about you kind of transitioned, got a job right out of grad school. So just kind of take us to the next step in the journey and what you did after you were done at Alabama.
My parents still to this day are like, "Well, hopefully you can come back to the Northeast because as soon as I got finished up grad school, I was anchoring weekend sports at VUA. I did like an extra summer just, working for them and just gained so much experience. And I was applying everywhere, trying to get somewhere. And, now when back when I was applying for jobs 4 years ago, I was looking at those very, very small markets. You're looking at the South Dakotas, the North Dakotas, and I ended up in Lubbock, Texas, about an hour and a half from the New Mexico border, way far west Texas. But my station was the corporate partner of Texas Tech Athletics. So we had a major Division I college there. And that was when Texas Tech just got off of that incredible run in the Final Four.
Mhm.
Their football hired a new coach. It was just massive. And also, Texas high school football is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So it was a small town. It was, I had to take 3 flights to get home, if I wanted to go home for Christmas or anything, or to see my family, or if my family wanted to come out and see me. But I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Learned so much, did a lot, produced, edit, hosted so many different shows, coaches shows with a lot of the Texas Tech coaches, got to sideline a lot of their football and women's basketball on ESPN Plus. Just like I just said yes to everything and
Mhm.
just super grateful that was a market that I started out in. And that it was just, yes, it was scary not knowing absolutely anybody, but to those days, those people still have my back and constantly do check in. I remember when Kayla DeBoer was like, we had no idea who was going to be,
Mhm.
had no idea, so DeBoer or not. I got a text from the Texas Tech head football coach, Jerry Maguire, and he goes, "Hey, just to let you know, it's not Sark." And I'm like, thanks, coach. I kind of figured, but like,
Yeah,
thanks. But that was just, that's our relationship type still. He was like, he goes,
that's
I
cool.
think whoever it is, it's going to be a good one. Obviously, he didn't know, but
Uh-huh.
he just was like, hey, it's not Sark, by the way. I'm like, thanks. I got the ESPN blast, but
Hmm.
like, thanks, coach. But, still really good friends with all those people and very grateful that they took a young reporter who had no idea about anything about the tradition out in West Texas and they just took her under her wing. And yeah, and then as soon as I saw a job opening here in Birmingham, everyone kind of knew like, you got to go for it because it's an opportunity to cover your alma mater.
Yeah. And so then you do get that at CPS 42 in Birmingham, get to cover Alabama for a couple of years. Just what was that experience like covering your alma mater? Obviously, you have to be unbiased in media, but kind of maybe what were some of your most memorable moments getting to cover Alabama on the other side at the same school you were an athlete at?
Oh my gosh, it was so surreal. It was so great just to see so many people that either I interned for or, worked underneath or worked alongside as a student. And now I'm coming back as I guess, a professional, like it's weird. It was a big, like, oh my gosh, like imposter syndrome. Because, when I go into the Malmore Athletic Facility, I have like little flashbacks of like, oh my God, remember when I completely fell after trying to max squat during that one day during practice? Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You have like little flashbacks and little
Uh-huh.
stuff, but incredible experience. And I think for me too, the one thing I always like to always put into my sports broadcasting and my sports reporting is like, we went through media training as athletes. It was mandatory at Alabama, no matter what sport you were in. I don't ever want to get that viral soundbite. I want them to open up to me. I love to go beyond the storylines and like beyond their stats and really get that cool story that they, may not know about. There's a lot of incredible athletes and incredible stories
Hmm.
here, and it goes beyond what they do on the field, on the pitch, in the pool, on the water. And I think to me that was something I was really excited to take on because I've been in their shoes. I literally understand everything they're going through. I understand the study hall. I understand all of those requirements. And, it's a little different of an age now because NIL wasn't there when I was
Yeah.
there. But it was so just surreal, 4th and 31 down at Auburn. That was a surreal moment to be able to cover that and had our big CBS show. And because especially with CBS, it was the last year when I came in when the SEC was on
Oh
CBS.
yeah.
We always weekly, I got to travel everywhere with Alabama or Auburn. It was so cool. And I got to like always go in the truck with, Jenny Dell and Gary. And it was just so cool. And, just being able to talk to those guys and always, have, that. And, I obviously the Mark Sear shot because it
Yeah,
just
you got the
right to my
shot.
camera. And I sat there. I didn't even know what the heck I got. I was in just such like, oh my gosh, I got to get this on there because I'm on a deadline. And I didn't realize how good of a shot it was
Hmm.
and I didn't also didn't realize he said that's game because it was so loud in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I posted it. And then I was just like, oh my God, wait, that was a really good shot. Like that was so cool just to be able to capture those moments too, and also be able to share you the angle that we have as media because we do get a lot of,
Hmm.
really cool privilege and stuff. But I will say, covering Auburn was really fun as well. I will give credit there. They run things super well, super media friendly down there, like Alabama. So it was, I had to hide some fandom, especially during the Iron Bowl. But I mean, covering gymnastics too, and
Uh-huh.
being able to cover rowing as an alum, that was a really cool thing. And that was one of my most favorite moments and most proudest moments was being able to get back in a boat, get mic'd up, row, and do a story on rowing, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can go check that out on your social media, I'm sure. And the Mark Sears shot. If y'all don't know what we're talking about, it's the buzzer beater at Auburn, and Sears runs straight toward her and kind of does his pose, and so she has like the perfect shot of that moment. It's kind of it's a cool moment for sure.
It was good.
Um, just kind of to wrap up, kind of what are you up to these days, and how can people keep up with whatever you might be doing?
Yeah, so that's the million-dollar question right now is like, what am I doing? So I'm no longer with CBS 42. It was a great experience there, just looking just now for my next step and looking how to move up on in the industry.
Hmm.
I have gotten my little butt in the play-by-play chair. So I've been doing a lot
That's
of
awesome.
play-by-play with women's volleyball and women's soccer for Sanford and UAB, and I will be doing some basketball this year, women's basketball for different schools. Can't say where yet, but just really excited. So just, just interviewing left and right. Gonna do a lot of feature stuff. I'm doing a lot of feature stuff with UAB and Sanford right now. I work with your husband, Tony, who's a joy to see every day at UAB. And yeah, just trying to figure out that next step and, figure out, you know, do I have, can I make a difference in the booth? Is my value going to be there too? And just kind of just seeing that because there's not as many women in the booth as there should be. And, maybe I could be the next Beth Mowens, where, who knows? So we're the next Doris Burke. It would be really cool to see. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And all my social media is there. I'm still not gonna, I think now it's nice because I actually can root for Alabama since I don't
Yeah.
cover them anymore. So it's been really cool just to like, after the Georgia one, I went RTR on my Instagram because now I can do it. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing, just kind of figuring out life and whatever God has planned for me, that is kind of just the journey I'm taking.
Yeah, that's awesome. So y'all be sure to keep up with her. If you know of a good broadcast media job, a sports job. Listen to all the experience she's had, the different teams she's gotten to cover, the sidelining she's gotten to do, getting to be with some of the best people in the industry at CBS when the SEC was still on CBS. So, and then also, being a student athlete, kind of the dedication and discipline she had to have doing stuff like that. So, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today and kind of share your really unique perspective of getting to be an Alabama athlete and cover the Tide.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and roll tide. I've always wanted to say that now I can, so roll
Love
tide.
it. Love it. It's like how all the coaches get to just, because sometimes I feel like one of the hardest things for us is like finding a succinct way to wrap things up. And
Yeah.
when you can just say roll tide, that
Yeah,
just wraps it up.
just roll tide, baby, roll tide.
Thanks. I want to thank Arielle so much for coming on and joining the show. I hope you learned something new. I hope you learned something new about Alabama rowing, the team, and hopefully you have a little more respect for what they do. If you're ever out running or walking on the Black Warrior River early in the morning in Tuscaloosa, you can see them practicing. And normally there's one weekend a year and there's one week in the fall and the spring that they'll have races. Normally it'll be sometimes it's fall break, sometimes it's a home football game. I guess I probably should have looked this up. And then normally there's kind of a weekend when there's a home basketball game that they'll have a race. If you want to say you can check another team off your list, you can go support the Alabama rowing team. They have a new coach this year, so some exciting things going on over there. Follow Arielle on social media to see what she's up to next, and just thank her for coming on the show. And now we'll kind of get into the upcoming schedule for the Crimson Tide women's teams this week. Soccer hosts Oklahoma on Thursday night at 7 p.m. In Tuscaloosa. It'll be free, but the game will also be on SEC Network Plus. Volleyball will play at Mississippi State on Friday at 5 o'clock, and then both those teams, soccer and volleyball, will be playing again on Sunday. Volleyball hosts number 9 Texas A&M at 2 p.m. So if you're coming into town for the Vanderbilt football game and you're staying all weekend, you can go over to Foster Auditorium on Sunday afternoon and watch a volleyball match. And then soccer will be at Missouri at 2 p.m. on Sunday, and that game will be on SEC Network, so you can watch it on regular linear television. And women's golf will be in Illinois starting on Monday for a tournament at the Illini Women's Invitational. But that's it for the upcoming schedule for women's athletics for the Crimson Tide until next week. So I just want to thank everyone again for supporting the show, for the kind comments. It would help if you would share the show with a friend, leave a review, subscribe, all those fun things. And that will be it for this week's episode of the Crimson Flame podcast. I'll see you guys next week.